to the GrubHub, Doordash, or any other food delivery employees. What is the strangest scenario you have had with an order? I once had a delivery for 10 bacon cheeseburgers, but literally just as I parked in front of the address, Skip the Dishes called me and said the order had been cancelled. However, the guy at the delivery address was sitting on his porch and saw me, and he just goes, "Skip the Dishes?" So I say yeah, but they let me know the order's cancelled. He says, "Yeah, you're the 5th delivery I've had, but this is the first time it's been cancelled." Turns out he had gotten into a disagreement with a woman down the block, and her way of getting back at him was by setting up a fake account for him and just delivery bombing him with ridiculous food orders. This was pre-pandemic when choosing cash payment was still allowed, so she didn't have to pay anything upfront to do this. Skip the Dishes must have been in the process of blocking the account just as I pulled up. Anyway, he and I laugh at how petty the whole thing is, and then I accept my next order and start heading to the next restaurant. Except I'm now in possession of 10 bacon cheeseburgers. Good burgers too. If you've ever had a burger from Five Guys and fries, they were very similar to that. Anyway, I eat one, but obviously I can't eat 10 burgers, so for the rest of my shift I got to be a hero by giving the gift a burger. Each time I would go to a restaurant to pick up my order, I would give the restaurant worker a free meal. I also counter-offered burger to a homeless person that came up to my car to ask for money. He seemed surprised, but he accepted. Eventually, once I was on to my last delivery at Montana's, I still had 2 burgers left, so I gave them to a server working there, and she just kinda melted, like she was seriously so touched. It was adorable. She was like, "Really? You're just gonna give me free bacon cheeseburgers? Oh my god, thank you so much." I think she must have been due for meal break or something, cause it was so sincere. More than one restaurant worker insisted on giving me something in return, so I ended up with a stash of drinks in my car by the end. Well, I have something I'd like to contribute, but it's the reverse, meaning it's the strangest scenario I've had as a delivery customer. Around 2004/2005 I lived alone in New Jersey with no car, but did have a fast metabolism. So I ordered from the local pizza place pretty much every other night. The owner and I loosely became friends after what was probably 100 plus orders, to the point where more than once he let me order and pay the next time. Delivery was usually done by someone in a beaten up car, or at best, a few-year-old sedan. One summer night I placed an order for delivery right before closing. About an hour later, a dark car creeps up the driveway. Despite being pitch black out, I could tell by the reflections on the paint that something was different. It was downright surreal, like a CG rendering of a fake car. This is weird. I think to myself, who can this be? The delivery is going to be here any minute, so I hope this bozo turns around and gets out of here quick. As it comes closer, I notice the design is unlike anything I've ever seen before. Eventually it pulls all the way up, does a K-turn, and much to my surprise, parks. I can now faintly make out a logo, 2 R's stacked on top of each other. I didn't know much about cars, but I did know enough to know what 2 R's meant, along with the fact that anything made by said car manufacturer cost more than most luxury homes. Surely this is a mistake. What is this person doing in my driveway in the middle of the night? I wonder to myself, starting to grow slightly concerned. The driver's door opens, and a man calmly gets out. He looked like he just stepped off the set of a James Bond movie. Now, if I didn't know much about cars, I surely knew even less about suits, but I could tell this guy's suit was worth more than my life. He suavely reaches into the car and pulls out a pizza. My pizza. He walks up the driveway and hands it to me. At this point my mouth was opening and closing, but no words were coming out. I was like a fish out of water. I immediately started fumbling with the damp sweaty dollars I had in my fist, trying to count out a tip, and he shakes his head and says no. Then he tells me to enjoy my pizza and have a good night. At this point I slowly nodded, not knowing what else to do. He got back in his car, quietly pulled out of the driveway, and drove off into the night. A few days later I decided to get some exercise and walked up to the pizza place rather than getting delivery. The owner was there and I mentioned the peculiar experience I had. He started laughing and told me that was my brother. He's VP of Finance for JP Morgan in New York City. I forgot to give your pizza to the delivery driver before he left and I had to clean up for at least an hour, so I couldn't deliver it myself. My brother just happened to stop by to see me on his way home, so I asked him to drop it off to you, since you're one of my most regular customers. TL. Doctor, one of the highest level executives of one of the largest financial firms in the world, personally delivered my pizza in his Rolls-Royce Phantom just before midnight on a random summer night. Edit. At the time Breaking Bad / Better Call Saul wasn't yet a thing, but looking back, I was afraid Gus Fring would get out and ask me to hand over the stuff, to which I would insist I had no idea what he was talking about. Then he would stare at me with those cold, dead, glaring eyes for 2 solid minutes before Mike would get out and insist I walk straight forward and look up at the stars. A guy I worked with had a delivery where the customer said to knock on the door and say "Foods here be *TCH or no tip." A couple weeks ago I had a customer pay in change. No big deal. Happens sometimes. The weird part is that all the change wasn't in a bag, an envelope, nope, it was a vinyl glove. There was also a silver dollar in the change too. I once had the person I was delivering to meet me in the restaurant's parking lot. This was the very early stages of COVID, so indoor dining was banned, and it was also a very popular restaurant, so the line was long as shit. I made $13 off a really easy delivery, so I'm not complaining. Was a delivery driver with a local pizza place for about a year. Strangest encounter I ever had was a delivery to a house on the other side of town. Dude answers the door in just his boxers, which is not that strange by itself. I look up at him, and he has almost no white in his eyes, they were almost entirely black. I briefly look past him, and notice there is no furniture in his house at all. 10 to 15 cats come running out between this dude's legs, and out the door, and he says, "Where did all those cats come from?" I say, "From inside your house." He didn't believe me. Drugs are a hell of a drug. Worked for Uber Eats. Picked up the order and pedaled to the delivery address. Once I get there, I ring the doorbell and no one answers. Proceed to send message and waiting. 2 minutes later, a very distressed woman comes out screaming at someone inside the house, "Duck you," and that be *TCH. And left in her car. The person at the door, who was only in his undies, proceeds to slam the door. I'll let 30 seconds pass and ring the doorbell again. No one answered. Sent another message and I was ignored. After 10 minutes I contacted support and they told me that if they didn't answer in 5 minutes I was free to leave with the food. Waited the 5 minutes, texted support to let them know, and drove back home. My then GF and I had a feast. We googled the cost of the meal and it was close to around $1,500 MXN, which is a ducking lot for 2 persons. We were in a very rough place economically then. That was the best meal we had had in months. I was delivering to a couple 2 pizzas and they were arguing like crazy. Throwing shit crazy. As per COVID rules for my job, I stepped back and watched the man grab the pizza and drop a rather large wad of cash on the pizza bag. He shut the door pretty quick, and while I grabbed the bag and the cash, a plate crashed on the door with the lady screaming, "That's the kinda shit I'm talking about." Bro, I ran. I wonder if they ordered the pizza before or after they started arguing. Have fun paying for pizza with your $0 a year salary plus benefits, babe. Finished a Postmates delivery in the Hollywood Hills when I got pinged to pick up an order at the Starbucks that's just off Laurel Canyon, or in that general area, I can't remember exactly. I like delivering in this area because usually the tips were very good. The person ordering wanted 4 tall iced coffees with no ice. I shrug that part off, because rich LA people are all ducking weirdos, but I was annoyed, because I had to place it, which means I had to make those annoying requests instead of just pick up the drinks. I go into the Starbucks and the lady working the counter says we've been expecting you. And I was like, okay. If you're a Postmates courier you know that, if you have to place the order, the restaurant would not be expecting you. Seen a lot of posts in r/Postmates by couriers, who say they just straight up refuse those. Then she tells me that this is Ariana Grande's exact order, and that I will be delivering to her house. It wasn't her name in the app, but it did occur to me that a celeb of her caliber probably use an assumed name, or have an assistant to order for her. I still had my doubts, just because I'm a naturally skeptical person. When I got to the address, I had to enter a key code at the gate, which wasn't unusual for this area. But when I saw the view, and saw that it was basically its own compound of multiple different houses, I figured that, even if it wasn't Ariana Grande's house, it had to be someone obscenely rich and famous. I pulled up to the house number specified in the app and texted that I was there, per the instructions. The person who greeted me was a middle-aged 4 minutes and 10 seconds Latina woman with a limp. She said thanks and I left. Had a guy excitedly invite me into his house, into his backyard, cause he wanted to show me his high-tech tree house he had finished. And like he just tipped me $10 and I was dead inside, so I said duck it, and went in, and didn't get raped, and saw his cool duck-in tree house, and yeah, it was neat. A grown man who insisted that I refer to him as Snow White. He tipped pretty good though. I'd take the money and say thanks Snow White and get back in my car. Hopefully that's the safe word. I used to deliver for Domino's and was delivering during a night with freezing rain, so it was very slick. I get to this one house with a steep driveway with no way I could drive up. I tried multiple ways to walk up the driveway and even on the grass, but would only make it a few feet. So I call the customer and explain the issue, and they come out with a rope and I tie the pizza bag to it. So they pull it up the driveway, take the pizza and put the cash in the bag with a nice tip. I love that they have a driveway rope handy. So do you normally order pizza without a pizza pulling rope handy? That is just irresponsible. One time during the early days of the pandemic I got an order for like a ton of BBQ ribs from some newly opened restaurant in Atlanta. I got all this food, drove out to some random upscale Hilton hotel off the beaten path. After a ton of back and forth with the concierge, he finally directed me to the correct room. I finally reach it, only to be met at the door by 2 naked folks and another 2 more waiting on the bed in the hotel room. I'm not saying those BBQ ribs were gonna be used in that orgy I interrupted, but I can't definitively say there wasn't a connection. How, exactly, does one employ a Barbie crib in an orgy setting? Not sure how many more bones those people needed for their little group sesh, but the night was undoubtedly going to get saucier. Got a few good stories delivering for the HUD about 10 years ago. 2 of my best runs were delivering to an orgy. The guy was sitting on his porch in a bathrobe and had to run inside to get more cash, being very careful to block my view inside. But when his biddy came to the door I got a good look inside. 4 chicks and 2 dudes from what I could see, all naked with plenty of booze, drugs, and paraphernalia laying around. Not much for a tip, but an interesting delivery I'll never forget. Another, I had a delivery to a mansion of a house. When I get there nobody answers the door or answers the phone number listed. As I'm about to give up and go back to the store, 310-12-year-old kids run up saying they ordered the pizza and their parents were out of town. While the parents were away they taught themselves how to make homemade smoke bombs, which they used to inadvertently set their backyard on fire. I grabbed their hose and started putting out the fire. They didn't want to call the fire dept in fear of getting in trouble, but I made them do it. By the time the fire truck pulled up I had taken care of the flames and the kids emptied all 3 of their pockets into my hands for about a $40 tip. I'm a bit late to the thread, but I used to deliver for Pizza Hut. One hot summer afternoon, I got a delivery for a pizza and wings to what looked like a restaurant. Turns out, there were small studio apartments above it, and I knock on the door anxiously. This was a particularly seedy area of town. This guy in his 50s answers the door but naked, clearly whacked out on some sort of stimulant, and gives me a bunch of ones. I peer into his apartment as he's fishing for change, and there's someone on his bed in this trash-filled apartment in a full jumpsuit and gas mask. Then I noticed the smell. It smelled strongly of piss and shit. I think he was pissing and playing with poop with whoever was in the jumpsuit. I got the change and immediately left and shut it out of my memory until I saw the title of this thread. Also, one time I was doing a delivery and there was a drive-by shooting about block away around the corner as I was walking up to the door. I had a shotgun in my trunk and the mother said, "Oh my god, they are shooting again. Come inside quick." So I grabbed my shotgun, ran inside and waited until long after the shots stopped before I went back to my car. She tipped me heavily for protecting her. She never told my boss about the gun and no one got killed in the drive-by, thankfully. Pizza delivery is some dark shit sometimes. I used to deliver pizzas, and one time I arrived at a house at the same time as a driver from another pizza place. We looked at each other confused for a secretary before we went to the door. Turns out they had some people over, and one of the people there really liked one restaurant over the other, so much so that they ordered a separate pizza. Edit, if you're here for the Alfredo's pizza by Alfredo joke, 30 people have already made it. Had that happen to me too, except it was 3 different companies. The customers made bets on who would make it there first. It was pretty funny. They tipped all of us well. I was the first on scene. I had this happen too. The other guy got there just ahead of me. They took his order, closed the door on me, and never answered it again. They must have been doing a first come kind of thing and I didn't make the cut. Then we blacklisted that address. The app told me to pick up the food by 7:05. I drove right to the store, got the food at around 7:03, checked the app for drop-off instructions, and it said deliver by 7 o'clock. Okay. Whatever. I got to the address at around 7:20. The building I needed to deliver to wasn't there. I walked around a bit, and it was nowhere near where my map took me. I called the customer and said, "Hi, I have your food, but I've been walking around for a bit and can't find your building. Can you walk me through where it is?" They just said okay and hung up. I texted them that I can't deliver the food if I can't find their building. No response. I walked around for a bit more to find the building and I couldn't. I called the driver support line to explain what happened. As I was dialing, I got a text from the customer around 15 minutes after I called them, telling me where their building was. Completely different place than where the app took me. I drove there, dropped off the food, and questioned why I bother doing this job. Those are people who use a fake address to place an order and then change to their much further address after the food is picked up, trying to force the driver to go a lot further for a lot less, or get stuck cancelling their order. Cancel it every time. Don't deliver anything to those scumbags. I drive for Uber Eats, and one time someone ordered Freshie, a healthy food/vegan place, and I saw that the order was 8 small bags of chips. Not even anything off their menu, just 8 bags of chips. Then while I was on my way to deliver it, they messaged me twice in the app. The first time they said please, and the second message was be careful. To this day I have no idea what was going on, or why they didn't go buy chips from the convenience store near their house. Lol reminds me of a time I had to pick up a single 2L Pepsi from a convenience store on the opposite end of town as the customer's house. There were plenty of other convenience stores open and online within a 1-kilometer radius of the guy's house. I guess Pepsi from 14 kilometers away tastes better because he tipped well. My wife and I have done Uber Eats, Doordash, and Instacart for about 2 years now. We don't have too many stories, mostly just high, drunk, or naked people answering the door. My wife is in a few Facebook groups though, and we just heard about a woman who was delivering some food into a private gated home. The gate had to be manually opened by the homie owner, and he let her in no problem, but then after she delivered the food, he wouldn't let her leave. It took calling the police, them arriving, and filing a report for her to be able to leave and learn that this was the third time he's done this. Uber, though, won't ban him from their service. Edit, yes, I agree this sounds like it's breaking the law. I don't know the full details, but I believe the woman is pressing charges, and I believe the police are performing an investigation. With many situations like this, it takes extended investigations and individuals filing charges and unfortunately months, if not years, for an arrest and eventually imprisonment. Uber will ban him once he rapes and murders one of them, and then have some PR announcement about how they take their contractors' safety very seriously. Once I picked up an order from a Grazianus, and they had no idea what GrubHub was, or that they were on the app. Had to call the horrible customer service and deal with them for like an hour before the restaurant believed it was real, then they gave me the wrong food. Only did that for a year before I realized how completely disorganized and unprofessional of a company GrubHub is, at least in my area. Some of the delivery companies, with their own delivery people, have added restaurants to their roster, not just without their knowledge, but even against their wishes. The restaurants hate it, because if anything goes wrong, they are the ones who get calls and low ratings online, but they honestly have no record of the end customer and no control over the delivery service. My boyfriend and I used to do grocery delivery. One time I had a woman order 33 oranges. Another time, he had someone order 24 jars of vanilla frosting. The store didn't even have enough vanilla frosting in stock to complete the order. Then 1 week later, we saw that the same man placed another order for 20 more jars of vanilla frosting. Vanilla frosting is a terribly delicious snack if you hate life. I worked for a delivery company about 6 years ago. I got an order for a single cigar. Total cost of goods about $3. Delivery fee $13.50. He lived way the hell out in the Botanies. He also tipped my like $10. Turns out he was drunk and delivery fee is less than a DUI. Hey man, say what you wanna say, but he was being responsible. It was a Tuesday afternoon around 3:30, regular calls and orders his regular pizza. This guy was always nice to me, but I could tell he was doing some hard drugs because he had lost so much weight and started to get lesions on his forehead and hands as time went on. I get to his house around 4, maybe 4:15. Deliver the pizza, and I'm walking back to my car when I feel an iron grip on my shoulder and someone shouts, "You gotta get out t'other way." I turn and there's 4 or 5 county sheriff's deputies in full tactical gear. There was probably 15 to 20 police officers in total. They lead me behind one of their cars and tell me not to move, then bust this guy's door down and go in shouting drug task force and all that. I had to stay there for about an hour and had my car searched and everything. All that they found was a travel mug my mom gave me a while before I thought I had lost. Never took another delivery to that guy. I wonder about him sometimes. I never found out the actual reason behind the raid, but I have my suspicions.